QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. Hello and welcome to the 35th episode of QuaranJazz. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer, songwriter, and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and your favorite podcast is starting now. And before you get your weekly update on what is happening on the jazz scene, let me just give you a few reminders. If you'd like to contact me, you can use the form on my webpage, geisafernandes.com. You can also join the Touring Jazz Musician, a Facebook group that I've created and manage. And you can subscribe to my mailing list, become part of my newsletter, and get free regular content. And if you're here for music, you'll also find in the description of this episode a link to the QuaranJazz playlist on Spotify. No talk, all jazz. Let's check what's new in our playlist. There we go. this beautiful tune is called Ritual I Dance, a composition from our guest Anders Helmerson. And Anders is not only a pianist and a composer, he's also a doctor. He'll tell us more about it. Hi, Anders. Really appreciate having you here in QuaranJazz. Thank you so much. I will ask you to start by introducing yourself to our listeners.
Hello there. My name is Anders. I'm quite a bored bloke for the moment. I'm from Sweden, or they call it the Great White North. But I'm not living in Sweden, I'm living in London. In fact, I've been living here for 2 decades, so I consider myself almost a Londoner today. Although Sweden is a nice country, it's a bit cold in the winter, but the summers are pretty much similar here to in the UK. I have been a musician for many years. I have another profession as well. I'm a doctor. I work as a GP part-time a few days a week in London, and the rest of the time I spend playing music, composing music. I'm working on the grand piano, but 10 years ago I didn't. 10 years ago I was working with electronic keyboards and that stuff.
And what would be your references, your musical references?
I think it's very difficult to say. Of course, I listen to a wide range of music in every genre. I think since our group has the timbre of grand piano, electric bass and drums, I would say much of my music sounds pretty much like other artists with the same lineup. For instance, Tigran Hamashan, Aziza Mustafa Sadeh, Hiromi, etc., etc. But I would say I'm first of all a composer. I love to write music, and all the music in our band is written by me. I would say maybe the best name to categorize our music is acoustic progressive jazz.
And Anders, I know that your 2020 started a little bit more colorful, a little bit more tropical, I would say. You've been to Brazil, right? So tell us, how were the first months of this year for you?
It started actually very good. I started in just after the New Year. I went to Brazil for a little tour. You know, Brazil is a country where I've been playing many times, and I have a lot of fans and listeners over there. So we went in the central Brazil to a jazz festival called Buena Vista Jazz Festival, and also we played in a theater in Rio. It was great. Coming home, I continued to play my own music for piano only. I had a gig in 1901 Art Club, which is a venue for classical music actually, and later also in the venue in Kew Gardens in London, where I played solo piano. And that was on the 16th of March, and that was the time when we have been aware that there was something called COVID-19 that was quite dangerous, and we were about to get into an apocalyptic pandemic. I remember talking to the audience at the venue and talking about this fact, and I said, in a few months maybe we're not allowed to go anywhere, to have any kinds of gathering at all. And people laughed. But 2 days later, the whole of UK was in a lockdown, and all the plans and gigs in the future for our band was just thrown out of the window.
And what were you doing by then?
Actually, I was in the midst of recording an album when it happened. I actually had booked a studio already, and I was a bit worried that I was not allowed to attend the studio. And that was in the middle of the lockdown, when you were not allowed to go basically anywhere without a very good reason. So I actually walked to the studio. It's not too far away. So if somebody would stop me, I could say I was just out walking a bit, doing some exercise. So I got to the studio, quite a quiet place, where it's me and a sound engineer, both dressed in face masks. And I recorded the first title for my new album, and this title is called Ritual I Dance, which was with me and a very good bass player called Lucas Shila, and a drummer from Japan called Senri Kawaguchi. Lucas was in his home studio in in Norfolk, and Sendri was in her Tokyo studio in Japan, and we did a really smashing work together. And that piece, Ritual Eye Dance, is a piece I've been spent 2 years on writing, and I am pleased that the result was as good as it was. Of course, this type of music is not everybody's cup of tea, but when we did a recording, we also recorded a video, and that video was released on social media and had very many watchers, hundreds of thousands. Of course, after that, I have recorded a few new songs, which is up to the release of my next album.
And what is the current situation? How hard are the restrictions now in London?
Yeah, of course, we are not in a lockdown in London anymore, but it's very restricted, and it has really affected the cultural life in this city. And that's a bit boring. You know, there are other things you can do, of course, during lockdown. How many of you have been streaming?
Oh, live streamings, they are hit here in Brazil since the beginning of the pandemic. And I would say they are probably here to stay. They are something that will stay after the pandemic, for sure.
I have been starting to stream, and that is actually a pretty good experience. I made a streaming last week for a cultural center in Porto Alegre in South Brazil for Institute of Ling, and I did a whole concert. That was an amazing experience, but very strange, and I didn't have my band members behind my back.
This live streaming format found its audience big time.
So I guess that's what you can do during these times. You can do streaming, you can write music, and you can practice on your instruments. And I'm very happy that I have possibility now to spend a lot of time improving my musical dexterity. There are still venues open in London, though. It's not locked down anymore. But most people, I don't think, are very happy to go out to listen to music today, because it's not like the way you want it to be with all the restrictions and pandemic rules. Yeah, they call it the new normal, but for me, this is not normal. I will never accept it to be normal. You just have to wait and see.
And what about your future plans?
I'm actually planning a tour in South America for February, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen.
So, Anders, at the beginning of the episode, we got a taste from Ritual Eye Dance, and it would be very nice if you could say a few words about this track and also about the second track, the one that you've selected for us to listen in full.
I'm bringing this tune, Ritual Eye Dance, as a contribution to this podcast today. It's a little bit of a memory of the lockdown, and there is also a video of this recording on the social media. As I said, I've been spending 2 years writing on this piece. I decided to write something that you are 100% happy with, and that means that you got a lot of ideas you have to put in the bin. Actually, when I was finished with this piece, I had about 2 hours materials I couldn't use.
Really? Wow.
And I had to erase it, which was difficult, but at the same time relieving. For the album, I have written another 4 or 5 pieces and also recorded it, but it is not published yet. The second piece I will bring is a piece from my previous album, Quantum House Project, a tune called The Story of Maida Hill. Hope you like that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders. Thank you so much for your participation in QuaranJazz. Thank you for this chat. I hope we can meet next time you come to Brazil. And thank you, dear listener, for staying with us. This was the 35th episode of QuaranJazz. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer, songwriter, and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. QuaranJazz is a proud participant of the Social Distancing Festival. Check out the description of this episode to find out more about this amazing action. And you will also find a link to my mailing list. Just give me your name and email address and you'll get free regular content from me, like other podcasts that I produce, new releases, and much more. You will also find the link to our QuaranJazz playlist on Spotify, including all the songs featured during the episodes.
No talk, all jazz.
And last but not least, you can also join the Touring Jazz Musician, a group on Facebook that I've created to spread out information on jazz festivals that accept submissions directly from artists. The Touring Jazz Musician on Facebook. Join the discussion. Well, dear listener, it is time to bid you farewell. Thank you very much for your company. Till next week. And now, ladies and gents, the story of Maida Hill. QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. QuaranJazz, a podcast by Geisa Fernandes.